Welcome to my channel, A Handful of Daisies DIY. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much for supporting my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Today we have a lot more thrift store items to DIY, so let's get started. So on our first project, I found this bowl and this wire basket at the thrift store, of course, and I thought they would work well together. So we're going to be using pewter gray and Waverly chalk white in white and some Waverly wax in clear. So we're just going to take the pewter gray and go all over the bowl. And paint the whole back side of the bowl first. I was a little worried about the coverage on this bowl and whether it would stick or not. So I put just a light coat on it. Then of course I came in with my hairdryer just to dry it up really well before I turned it over because I didn't want to take a chance of the paint coming off. So then we're just going to do the top side as well. I'm trying to get a fairly good coverage, but I will go back and add a second coat after it dries really well. I'm not really worried about all the brush marks. Since we're going to add the white Waverly chalk paint on top, that's going to cover most of those brush marks. So I did come in with my hairdryer and dry the top as well. And then I go back and just touch up some spots that I missed. Now you can let this just set, but I'm very impatient, so I always break out the hairdryer and get it dried really well so I can move on to the next step. So here I am coming in with my Waverly white chalk paint. Of course I can't leave anything plain, so I have to add something more, give it a little bit more dimension. So I'm just using my chip brush to go all over the bowl. And you can leave this plain if you like it plain. I always have to add something extra. And since I'm not able to sand this because it would take the paint off completely, I did go fairly heavy with the white chalk paint. So then we're just going to do the same thing to the wire basket. And I'm not really worried about getting full coverage on this because I really didn't mind the gold coming through. I think it gave it a little bit more of an aged look. Now you can just take these out and spray paint them as well. It was raining here today, so I wasn't able to go outside and do any spray painting. And when it's so wet out, it takes forever for the paint to dry. It is a little harder to use your brush to get on these wires on the basket. But again, I wasn't really worried about getting full coverage. So if I missed a few spots, it was fine. So I'm going to use my hair dryer to dry that up as well. And patience in between my steps, of course. Then after it's dried, I am going to just touch it up a little bit. And then I'm going to go back and use the hair dryer to dry that up as well. Once that's good and dry, I'm going to take my white Waverly chalk paint and just go over that so it matches the top. I really couldn't believe how well these two fit together. The bowl was the perfect size for this basket. And it's amazing what a little bit of paint will do to change an item. So once that was done, I did come in with my Waverly wax and clear and go over the whole bowl. I'm using that just to give it a little bit more protection to keep the paint from chipping. Now that does take a little bit longer to dry. So I did the top and the bottom. And then I did touch up a little bit more of the white where I felt like it wasn't enough. You just have to add and take away as you look at it and it dries, and just see if you want more or less. And here's a look at the before and after. What a big difference. So here's a look at our next item. I got these at the thrift store as well. I thought they were really pretty, but they were of gold, so I didn't really like the gold. So of course we're going to paint over it. I am using the Waverly chalk paint again in white. So I used this box I had just to raise it up off my table, so I was able to get the sides as well. And it was a little difficult to get in between all those little nooks and crannies. I was okay with a little bit showing through. I'm going to distress this anyway, so that was fine. These projects we're doing today, anyone can do these projects. Just a little paint. Go to your local thrift store and just pick up some items. As you can see, you can really change what they look like. They may not be your style when you first get them, but you can make them your style. So of course, I brought out the hairdryer again just to dry it up. And I did have a little bit that dripped on the bottom, so I wiped that as well. And afterwards, you'll see I go back and fix that. I'm just going to give it a second coat around the edges. And then trying to get into those little nooks and crannies again. I did end up getting a smaller brush just to get some of those corners that I couldn't seem to get my brush down into. So sometimes you just have to have a couple different size brushes on hand. So if you're new to my channel, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming videos. I have a lot more thrift store items. Every week I check out the thrift store just to see what they have new. So we have a lot more to come. So I'm just taking my sanding block that I got from the Dollar Tree and distressing the edges. Now this sanding block is pretty old, so it's coming apart a little bit. Now as I'm distressing it, that gold is coming through. I'm not sure if I'm going to like that or not, but you'll see in the end I do come back and add some gray over that just to tone down that gold. So I'm gonna go in and distress the edges as well, and of course the back where it dripped, I'm gonna clean that up a little bit. I'm just gonna wipe everything down, get some of the dust off of it. Now here's a before and an after photo. What a big transformation. Our next item is this lantern. I loved this piece and I couldn't believe I found it at the thrift store. I did pay a little bit more than normally I pay at the thrift store. This one was $9. And I'm not going to do a whole lot to it. I'm just going to take a baby wipe and the Waverly White chalk paint and go over the whole lantern just to make it look a little more aged. So I'll put the white paint on and then I'll take a paper towel and just wipe it off. So it's just leaving a faint amount of that white on there. I think adding this white and then wiping it off and using a baby wipe to water it down a little bit gives it a completely different look. Now I just love how this turned out. Here's the before and after. So you can see it was more of a brown coppery at first, and then it looks really aged at the end. Our next thrift store find are these two candlesticks, which I really liked. They're big and chunky, but they were pretty worn, and the colors really wasn't what I was looking for. So I'm using Waverly chalk paint in moss. And this is my favorite color, I think, this year. This moss paint is so pretty. So I did decide after I poured my paint out that I wanted to use a little texture. So I did add baking soda to my paint. So I'm just going to paint over a good coat of this baking soda and paint mixture. And the good thing about adding the baking soda is it gives you such a good coverage because it's a little thicker. And I think it helps the paint adhere a little bit better to your items, especially when you have a glossy finish. Of course, I'm going to break out my hair dryer and get this dried up. It dries fairly quickly. And the color does darken a lot more once it's dried. I'm going to go ahead and do the second phase. So you can see I'm mixing my paint again. This chalk paint, or this paint with the baking soda mixture, it does tend to get thick the longer it sets. So I normally try to just mix up enough for one item at a time. And again, this paint with the baking soda is fairly thick, so it paints really well. It gives you a lot more coverage than just the paint alone. So of course, I can't leave anything alone. So I'm going in with some Waverly white chalk paint and just giving it a little bit of a dry brush. And I'm doing it fairly heavy, but you'll see in the end I come back and just mute that down a little bit because I thought it was too much. So you just have to, as you go along, decide what you like and what you don't like, and you can always change it. And here's a look at the before and after. What a transformation. I just love these candlesticks. And here's a look at how they all turned out. I hope you enjoyed today's thrift store DIYs. Don't forget, we have many more to come. So if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and notification bell, and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. You'll also find me on Instagram and Facebook at A Handful of Daisy's Home Decor. I hope you'll join me there as well.